Hey Storystream fam. I just want to give a huge thank you to everyone who's been here from part 1 all the way to the end of the Weight of Innocence. Your support, comments, and mind-blowing theories have made this journey unforgettable. If you're new here, welcome. You picked one hell of a story to start with. And don't go far, because our next mystery is on the way, and trust me, it's just as intense. Let's dive into what's coming next. The Weight of Innocence. Part 3, Unveiling the Truth. Adrian Blackwell. The name had echoed in my mind for days, a puzzle piece I had been unable to fit into place. And now, standing before him in the dimly lit warehouse, the air thick with unspoken words, I couldn't deny the weight of his presence. This was the man I had been searching for, the one who held the answers to the questions that had been haunting me. His figure was shrouded in darkness, but I could make out enough. His posture, the way he stood, arms crossed, exuding an air of control that made my heart race. I felt small, insignificant in his gaze. But there was something else, too. A flicker of recognition in his eyes. Like he knew me. Like he had seen me before. But not in the way I had seen him. Evelyn stood beside me, tense but resolute. She didn't speak, just watched Adrian with the same wariness I felt. There was no trust between them, no comfort in this reunion. Whatever their history, it was clear that this meeting wasn't by chance. You shouldn't have come here. Adrian's voice was low, calm, with a hint of something darker, something that made my pulse quicken. This place, he gestured to the vast, empty warehouse, his eyes briefly flicking to the symbol on the floor that Evelyn and I had found. This place is nothing for you. You're not supposed to be involved. My breath caught in my throat. His words didn't make sense, yet they struck a chord deep within me, like a warning I couldn't ignore. What was this place? And why did it feel like I was walking into something far larger than myself? I'm involved because of Peter. I finally found my voice, the words heavy on my tongue. Because I know I'm being blamed for something I didn't do. And because you... I paused, trying to steady my breath. You know something about it. Adrian's lips tightened, and for a moment, I thought he would walk away. But instead, he took a step toward us, his eyes never leaving mine. You really don't remember, do you? He asked, his voice almost tender, like he was speaking to a child. I frowned, confusion clouding my thoughts. Remember what? The weight of the question hung between us, and for a fleeting second, I thought I saw a flicker of guilt in his eyes. But then it was gone, replaced by a coldness that made my skin crawl. You're not the one who should be asking that question, Adrian replied quietly, his tone hardening. The people you've been trusting, they aren't who they claim to be. They've been using you, Lena. Manipulating you. And you've been too blinded by your own fear to see it. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I tried to process what he was saying, but the ground felt like it was shifting beneath me. I had trusted Evelyn, believed in her when no one else had. She had been the only one who had stood by me, even when it seemed like everyone else thought I was guilty. But now Adrian was telling me that I had been misled, that the people I thought I could trust had been lying to me. I looked over at Evelyn, but her expression was unreadable. She wasn't looking at me, instead focused entirely on Adrian, her jaw set tight. She hadn't spoken, hadn't tried to defend herself, but the silence spoke volumes. What do you mean? I asked, my voice trembling slightly, the doubt creeping into my chest. What are you trying to say? Adrian gave a short, almost bitter laugh. You really don't see it, do you? The police, Evelyn. None of them are on your side. They've been watching you, waiting for you to break, so they could pin this whole thing on you. And you... He turned his gaze to me, his eyes dark and knowing. You've been playing right into their hands. I recoiled, a sharp breath catching in my throat. My chest tightened, and for a moment, I couldn't breathe. No, I whispered. That can't be true. Evelyn, she's been helping me. She believes in me. Adrian's gaze softened, but only for a moment. I don't think you understand, Lena. Evelyn isn't the person you think she is. No one is. I shook my head, trying to push the words away, but they lingered like a poison in my veins. Could I really have been wrong all this time? Could I have been so blind, trusting the wrong people? My thoughts were a storm, swirling with fear and confusion. But I couldn't let it consume me. Not yet. I had to keep my focus, had to hold on to the one truth I knew. Peter had been killed, and someone was framing me for it. And no matter what Adrian said, I couldn't just let that go. Why are you doing this? I asked, my voice steady despite the chaos in my mind. What do you want from me? Adrian was silent for a long moment, his gaze flickering between Evelyn and me. "I want you to understand the truth," he said at last. "Because once you do, there's no going back." I stood there, frozen, staring at him. His words had cracked something open inside me. The idea that I had been manipulated, played like a pawn in someone else's game, made my stomach twist in anger. But there was a part of me, a small, terrified part, that wondered if he was telling the truth. And if he was, what did that mean for me? The silence between us stretched on, thick and suffocating, and I could feel my chest tightening with every passing second. Adrian's words had hit me harder than I was willing to admit, but I couldn't let myself crumble. Not yet. Not in front of him. Not when I had come so far. "Why should I believe you?" I finally asked, my voice steady, though my insides felt like they were unraveling. "What makes you think I'll trust you over the people who have been trying to help me?" Adrian's lips curled into a tight, almost sorrowful smile. "You don't have to trust me. But you'll have to trust what I can show you. It's the only way you'll ever get out of this." His eyes flicked over to Evelyn, who hadn't moved, hadn't said a word since his arrival. She was watching us intently, her face a mask of unreadable emotion. I couldn't read her anymore, and that terrified me. Was she really the ally I thought she was? Or had I been deceived? "You think this is about trust, don't you?" Adrian continued, stepping closer. "This isn't about trust, Lena. This is about survival. The truth you're looking for, it's not going to be handed to you on a silver platter. It's ugly, messy, and it might break you. But it's the only way out." I felt a shiver crawl down my spine, the weight of his words sinking into me. Survival? What did he mean by that? Was he saying my entire world was a lie? That the people I had trusted were part of something I couldn't even comprehend? "You're not making sense," I muttered, my voice barely above a whisper. "You keep talking in riddles. What do you want from me, Adrian?" Adrian's expression softened, but only slightly. "I want you to see the bigger picture. The police, Evelyn, they're all pieces in a game. But you're the prize. You've been manipulated from the start. And Peter's death isn't as simple as it seems. It's all connected." I turned to Evelyn then, my eyes searching hers for some kind of explanation. I couldn't do this alone. Not anymore. I needed her to tell me it wasn't true. That she hadn't been a part of whatever game Adrian was implying. Evelyn finally spoke, her voice quiet but firm. "He's right," she said, her words cutting through the air like a blade. "I didn't want you to find out this way, Lena, but it's the truth. You've been used." My breath hitched, the room spinning around me. No, this can't be right," I whispered. "I trusted you. You've been helping me. You." "I didn't have a choice," Evelyn interrupted, her gaze now meeting mine. There was no softness in her eyes. No comfort. "I was trying to protect you. But now, I see it's too late. You deserve to know what's really going on." The betrayal stung deeper than I had imagined. Every ounce of trust one had given her, every moment I had believed she was on my side, now felt like a lie. My mind was reeling, trying to piece together the shards of truth that were being thrown at me. How could everything I knew be wrong? Adrian stepped forward, his eyes never leaving mine. "I told you, Lena. You're the one they've been setting up. And when they finally succeed in framing you for Peter's death, you'll never know who really pulled the strings." I swallowed hard, trying to suppress the nausea rising in my throat. I couldn't let myself break down. Not here, not now. I had to focus. There was something else, something more important in his words that I couldn't ignore. "What do you mean, pulled the strings?" I asked, barely able to get the words out. "Who's behind all of this?" Adrian's gaze darkened. "That's something you don't want to know right now," he said, his voice dropping to a near whisper. "You'll have to make a choice soon, Lena. You either walk away from this and leave it all behind, or you dive in deeper and face whatever comes next. But be warned, once you know the truth, there's no turning back." I felt like the walls were closing in around me, the air growing thicker with every word. I wanted to scream, to run, but I couldn't. I was trapped in this web, tangled in lies, and no matter how hard I tried to escape, the truth kept pulling me back in. "What's the truth, Adrian?" I demanded, my voice shaking with a mixture of frustration and fear. "Tell me, what's really happening?" For a moment, he said nothing, just stared at me, as if weighing something in his mind. And then, finally, he spoke. "It's not just about Peter's death, Lena. It's about something bigger, something far bigger than you or me. The people you think you can trust are part of something far more dangerous. And if you don't learn what's going on, you'll be lost in this mess forever. His words hung in the air like a weight, pressing down on my chest. I had come here seeking answers, hoping for some kind of resolution, but now I felt more lost than ever. Evelyn stood silently beside me, her expression unreadable, but I could see the tension in her body. She wasn't backing down. She wasn't apologizing. Whatever had happened, whatever role she played in all of this, she had made her choice. And now, it seemed like there was no way out of it. "Do you have anything else to say?" I asked, my voice tight, fighting to keep my emotions in check. Adrian's lips parted, as if he were about to speak, but just then, the sound of footsteps echoed through the warehouse, heavy and deliberate. The door we had entered through swung open with a loud creak, and we all froze. Someone else was here. The footsteps grew louder, closer, and my pulse quickened. I glanced at Evelyn, who stiffened beside me, her eyes narrowing with suspicion. Adrian didn't flinch, but there was a sudden tension in his posture, a readiness that suggested he wasn't surprised by the interruption. "Who is that?" I whispered, but Evelyn didn't answer. She was already moving, stepping back into the shadows, pulling me with her. My mind raced. Who else could possibly be here? And why had they followed us? Before I could ask again, the figure appeared at the edge of the dim light. A tall man, dressed in dark clothing, his face obscured by the shadow of his hood. His presence was menacing, and though I couldn't see his features clearly, I could feel the weight of his gaze as it swept over the room. "Adrian," the man's voice cut through the silence like a blade. "You didn't think we wouldn't find you." Adrian's expression hardened, his jaw clenching. "I didn't think it would be you, Marcus," he replied, his tone colder than before. "What do you want?" Marcus stepped forward, his silhouette growing more distinct. "It's not about what I want. It's about what you've done. You've made a mess of things, Adrian. And now, you're going to fix it." I felt a wave of confusion wash over me. Who was this Marcus? What mess was Adrian in? And why was it now pulling me into the middle of it all? Evelyn kept me close, her hand gripping mine as she pulled me further into the shadows, away from the confrontation. I had no idea what was going on, but I knew this moment wasn't just about Peter's death anymore. It was bigger. Much bigger. "I don't owe you anything," Adrian snapped. "You and your team have nothing on me." The man, Marcus, let out a low, almost amused chuckle. "We'll see about that." His eyes shifted to me, then back to Adrian. "And as for her," he said, voice darkening, "you've really let it go this far? She's a liability now." I felt the blood drain from my face. Me? A liability? What did he mean? I barely had time to process the words before Adrian stepped between us, his stance protective. "I'm not letting you take her," Adrian said, voice full of quiet fury. "Not this time." The tension was palpable, but before anything could escalate further, Marcus's gaze shifted, a warning in his eyes. "You can't protect her forever, Adrian," he warned. "Sooner or later, the truth will come out, and there won't be anyone left to save you." With that, Marcus turned on his heel and retreated into the shadows, his footsteps fading into the distance. I could still hear the echo of his voice, the threat lingering in the air like smoke. Adrian stood still for a moment, as if calculating his next move, then turned to face us. "I didn't want you involved, Lena," he said, his tone softer now, though the edge of urgency remained. "But it's too late to back out now. We're running out of time." I was left standing there, frozen, my mind reeling. Everything was falling apart faster than I could understand it. What had Marcus meant? And why was Adrian so determined to protect me? From what? The night had just gotten a lot more dangerous, and I had no idea where I fit into it all anymore. The warehouse felt colder after Marcus left, as if the shadows had deepened in his absence. The silence between us hung heavy, oppressive, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something terrible was about to happen. Adrian stood there, his posture tense, as if he were trying to decide whether to say more or to leave it all unsaid. But the words I needed to hear, answers I desperately craved, were right there, lingering between us. "Who was that?" I finally asked, my voice quieter than I intended, but the need for answers overpowered my fear. Adrian's gaze flicked toward the door Marcus had exited, then back to me. "Marcus is someone from my past, a part of the organization I used to be involved with. He's not someone I want around, but he's dangerous. He has connections. He knows things." His words only added to the confusion swirling in my mind. An organization. What kind of organization could have such a hold on Adrian? And now on me. Why does he want me? I asked, my voice trembling despite my best efforts to remain composed. I couldn't help but feel like I was at the center of something so much bigger than myself. Adrian took a step toward me, his gaze softening slightly. Because you're a part of something you don't understand yet, Lena. You've been dragged into this because of Peter. His death wasn't just a random accident. It was planned. And you, he hesitated, looking almost regretful. You're the key to uncovering it all. I couldn't breathe. The weight of his words pressed down on me. I had always felt like a pawn in a game, but this was something else entirely. My mind scrambled to make sense of it. Planned. Peter's death wasn't an accident. I had thought it was just a tragic event, something that happened to me by sheer coincidence. But now I could see the dark truth slowly starting to take shape. What do you mean, I'm the key? I whispered, my throat dry. Adrian didn't immediately answer. He ran a hand through his hair, looking frustrated. Lena, you've been kept in the dark for too long. But now we're running out of time. People are watching us. Everything you think you know is a lie. You have to understand that. But I don't, I said, my voice rising despite myself. I don't understand any of this. You tell me I'm the key, but to what? Why was Peter killed? And why am I the one being framed for it? What is this all about? Adrian's face darkened, and he stepped closer. His eyes bore into mine, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of something else in them. Guilt, regret, maybe even fear. I can't tell you everything right now, Lena, he said, his voice low. There are people involved who would rather see you disappear than get answers. But I promise you, Peter's death was the beginning of something much larger. Something that's been happening for years. And you're in the middle of it. I shook my head in disbelief. This doesn't make sense. How do I fit into this? I'm just an ordinary person. I don't belong here. None of this has anything to do with me. Adrian reached out, gripping my arm gently. That's where you're wrong. You've been involved since the moment you met Peter. You don't realize it, but you've been part of a bigger plan. One that involves people who are far more powerful than we could ever imagine. They want control. And they'll stop at nothing to get it. His words hit me like a cold wave, the realization sinking in slowly, painfully. People more powerful than I could imagine? Control. What did that mean for me? How had I gotten so tangled up in this mess? What do we do now? I asked, my voice trembling despite my best efforts to remain strong. Adrian's gaze softened, but there was no comfort in it. Now we do what we have to do. We uncover the truth, and we make sure no one else gets hurt. But it won't be easy. There are too many people who don't want us to succeed. The weight of his words settled over me like a dark cloud. We uncover the truth. How could I possibly uncover the truth when I didn't even know where to begin? Everything I thought I knew had been turned upside down. Peter's death, Evelyn's betrayal, Marcus's warning. It was all connected, but I couldn't see the full picture. And I wasn't sure I ever would. Do you think we can really do this? I asked, the doubt creeping into my voice despite myself. Can we uncover the truth? Adrian's eyes darkened. We have no choice. The answer was simple, but the weight of it pressed down on me like a mountain. I had no choice. But that didn't mean I had any idea how to survive the storm that was coming. I didn't know what I was supposed to do next. Adrian's words hung over me like a constant hum in my ears. People were after me. Peter's death wasn't what I thought it was. I was the key to a much larger conspiracy that I didn't understand, and worse, there was no escaping it. I was tangled up in something I couldn't outrun. Adrian had been right about one thing. There was no turning back. If I had any hope of surviving, I had to keep moving forward, no matter how terrifying it was. The city outside felt different now. The hum of traffic, the sounds of everyday life. It all seemed distant, muffled by the weight of the secret I was carrying. I wasn't just a victim of circumstance anymore. I was an unwilling player in a game I didn't understand. Are you ready? Adrian asked, his voice cutting through my thoughts as we stood by his car, the engine running. His expression was unreadable, his jaw set as he watched me. His eyes told me he wasn't sure either, but he wasn't giving me a choice. I swallowed hard, forcing my heart to steady. I don't know if I'm ever going to be ready, I whispered, more to myself than to him. But I have to do this. He nodded, his gaze unwavering. We don't have time to wait for readiness, Lena. We're already in too deep. I climbed into the passenger seat of his car, the tension in the air so thick I could almost touch it. I was about to dive headfirst into a world that was as dangerous as it was unknown, and I wasn't sure if I was strong enough to face it. As we pulled away from the curb, the city blurred in my peripheral vision, but the nagging feeling in my gut didn't fade. This wasn't just about Peter anymore. It was about survival. About finding a way to outsmart the people who were hunting me. The drive was quiet. Too quiet. I wanted to ask Adrian more questions, push him to tell me everything he knew, but I didn't have the energy. I was too afraid to hear the answers. Finally, after what felt like hours, Adrian spoke again. We need to get to the safe house. There's someone who can help us. Someone who might have the answers we need. I glanced at him, surprised. Who? You're not telling me we're going to someone you know from the past again, are you? He shot me a quick glance before focusing back on the road. Someone different. Someone more reliable. I didn't ask more questions. At this point, I was too exhausted to even try to understand the layers of deception that were being revealed. All I could do was follow. The safe house, when we finally reached it, was tucked away in a quiet corner of the city, nothing like the places I had imagined when Adrian had first mentioned it. It was a modest apartment in a rundown building, far from any of the places I would have considered safe. But the moment I stepped inside, I felt the weight of something solid, something that wasn't shifting underneath my feet. This is it, Adrian said, holding the door open for me. His tone was more serious than usual, a quiet urgency hanging in his words. This is where we make our stand. The room we entered was simple, with minimal furniture and a window that looked out over a narrow alley. It wasn't much, but it didn't need to be. What mattered was what was inside. A woman was sitting at a small desk in the corner of the room, papers scattered in front of her. She looked up as we entered, her eyes sharp and calculating. She was older than me, her dark hair streaked with silver, her expression cold and serious. Adrian, she said, her voice clipped. I see you've brought company. I could sense the tension in the room. This woman was no stranger to danger, no stranger to the weight of the world pressing down on her. And I had no idea if she could be trusted. This is Lena, Adrian said, his voice betraying none of the stress I felt bubbling up inside me. She's the one we need to protect. The woman's eyes shifted to me, scanning me with a coolness that made me uncomfortable. I had no idea how much she knew about the situation, but the way she looked at me, the way she appraised me, made me feel like I was already being sized up for something bigger than I was ready for. You're the one involved in the incident with Peter? She asked, her voice detached but not unkind. She didn't wait for me to answer before continuing. You're in way over your head, girl. But that's not surprising. I swallowed, forcing myself to meet her gaze. I don't even know what's going on. I don't know who to trust anymore. The woman nodded slowly, as if she had been expecting this. That's the first step, Lena. Admitting you're in the dark. You'll have to trust us if you want to make it out of this alive. Because there are people, dangerous people, who want you dead. And they'll stop at nothing to make sure you don't get in their way. Her words sent a chill through me, but there was something in her tone that made me believe she wasn't lying. She wasn't trying to manipulate me. She was simply stating the facts. Who are they? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. The woman didn't immediately answer. Instead, she turned to Adrian, her gaze intense. We don't have time for small talk, she said, her voice hard. We need to move quickly. Every second we waste, we're getting closer to being caught. Adrian's jaw tightened, and I could see the weight of the situation pressing down on him too. What's our next move? He asked, his voice steady despite the storm I could see raging behind his eyes. The woman didn't hesitate. We're going after the one who's pulling the strings. It's the only way to end this. I nodded slowly, my heart pounding. This was it. The moment of truth. There was no turning back now. The quiet hum of the safe house felt almost suffocating. I stood by the window, watching the dim lights of the city below, my mind racing. The woman, Adrian had called her Mira, had been clear. The only way out of this was to confront the person behind everything. But who was that person? Who had orchestrated Peter's death and dragged me into this nightmare? I could feel Adrian's eyes on me, but I didn't turn around. It was hard to look at him without feeling betrayed, even though I knew he was trying to protect me. Trying to protect us. I had to trust him. But there were too many gaps in my understanding to feel at ease. What happens next? I asked, my voice quieter than I intended. The words felt heavy on my tongue. Adrian leaned against the wall near the door, his posture tense. He had that familiar, guarded look in his eyes, the one I had learned to associate with bad news. We find out who's behind this. We need to go to a secure location. Myra's got contacts who can help us track down leads. Mira, who had been sitting at the desk, looked up from her papers and met my gaze. You'll need to be ready for anything. We're dealing with people who won't hesitate to do anything to protect their interests. They have a lot at stake. I swallowed hard. How do you know they won't just come after us here? I asked, glancing at Adrian. Myra's expression didn't change. They won't. Not yet. But the moment we step out, it'll be a different story. We need to stay one step ahead. I nodded, but the weight of uncertainty still pressed on me. Everything I had thought I knew was unraveling. Nothing made sense anymore. Who was I to be the center of this? Why couldn't they just leave me alone? As if reading my mind, Adrian pushed off the wall and walked over to me. I know this is a lot to take in, but we don't have a choice anymore. The people we're dealing with are ruthless, Lena. They'll stop at nothing to get what they want. I met his gaze, my heart pounding. And what is it they want? They want control, Mira answered, her voice low. Control of everything. Power. And you're the key to everything. I flinched at the words, the cold realization hitting me harder than before. I was caught in the middle of something that had nothing to do with me, yet everything to do with me. I had to keep going. I had no choice. We have to move now, Mira added, snapping me out of my thoughts. Before they realize we've figured it out. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my racing heart. The path ahead was uncertain, but I had to take the first step. No more running. The car hummed quietly as we sped through the streets, the city lights flashing by in a blur. Adrian was at the wheel, his grip tight, eyes focused on the road. Mira sat in the back seat, her gaze sharp, scanning the surroundings. I sat in silence, trying to steady my thoughts. The tension was palpable, a heavy weight pressing on my chest. We were getting closer to something. I didn't know exactly what, but every passing moment felt like we were being drawn into the heart of a storm. And I couldn't escape it. None of us could. We need to be quick, Adrian said, breaking the silence. We don't have much time. The longer we wait, the more dangerous this becomes. Mira nodded. We'll go to the warehouse first. I've got a contact there. He'll help us get more information. I wanted to ask more questions, but I was afraid of the answers. I wanted to know who was behind all of this, but a part of me feared that the truth might be too much to handle. What if we're walking into a trap? I finally asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Adrian glanced at me for a split second, his jaw tightening. We're already in a trap, Lena, he said quietly. We just have to make sure we're not the ones who get caught. The words settled between us, heavy and uncomfortable. I didn't know what to say to that, so I just nodded. The closer we got to the warehouse, the more my nerves started to fray. The building loomed in the distance, dark and imposing, an eerie silence surrounding it. My heart pounded in my chest. What were we walking into? When we finally pulled up, Mira immediately got out of the car, her movements quick and purposeful. Adrian followed, with me trailing behind. The air was thick with anticipation, and I couldn't shake the feeling that we were on the edge of something we might not be able to control. We stick together, Adrian said, looking between Mira and me. No matter what happens. Stay close. I nodded, but my stomach twisted. I had no idea what was waiting for us inside the warehouse, but I knew one thing for sure. There was no turning back now. The warehouse loomed ahead, a shadow in the night. We approached with a caution that felt almost instinctual, as if we knew something was about to break. I could feel my heart hammering in my chest, the adrenaline rushing through me, but I fought to keep my breathing steady. I couldn't afford to let fear take control. Not now. Mira led the way, her movements swift and deliberate. Adrian and I followed closely behind, every step measured, as if we were moving through a fog of uncertainty. The closer we got to the entrance, the more my mind raced. What if we were walking into a trap? What if this was the moment everything fell apart? We reached the door, and Mira paused, turning to us. Her expression was unreadable, but her eyes betrayed a flicker of concern. Just a brief flash, but enough to catch my attention. Stay sharp, she said, her voice low. This is where it gets messy. Adrian nodded, his jaw set. Let's finish this. We stepped inside, the dim light casting long shadows on the floor. The space was vast and empty, save for a few crates and industrial equipment scattered around. The silence was almost suffocating. And then, out of the darkness, a figure stepped forward. My breath caught in my throat as I recognized him immediately. Marcus. The man from before, the one who had been circling around us like a predator. His eyes were cold, calculating, and I could see the smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth. "You really think you can stop this?" he asked, his voice smooth, almost mocking. "You think you're in control?" I bristled at his words, but Adrian stepped forward, standing between me and Marcus. "We're not here for games, Marcus," Adrian said, his voice firm. "This ends tonight." Marcus chuckled, taking a slow step toward us. "Oh, it's not over yet. You still don't get it, do you? You're all just pawns in a much larger game." His words sent a chill down my spine. He was taunting us, playing with us, trying to break our resolve. But something in his tone, something in his eyes, told me we were close to the truth. He knew something we didn't. "What's the game, Marcus?" I asked, surprising myself with the strength in my voice. "What's really going on?" He paused, studying me with a new level of interest. "You're smarter than I thought," he said slowly, then glanced at Adrian. "Maybe it's time you both knew the full story." I felt a flicker of hope, though it was faint. Maybe we were finally getting to the heart of this. Marcus's eyes flicked to Mira, who had been standing still, watching the exchange. "You always were good at hiding in plain sight," he muttered. Myra's lips curled into a small, knowing smile. "You're too late, Marcus." He straightened, his expression faltering for just a moment before he regained his composure. "I should have known you'd be the one to interfere. You've always been a thorn in the side of this organization." Myra's gaze was sharp as she stepped forward. "This isn't just about you anymore. You've been using people, manipulating them. And you've underestimated Lena." I froze at her words. Me. I was the one who had been manipulated. How could I possibly be involved in anything as big as this? "You really believe she's innocent?" Marcus sneered, his gaze flicking back to me. "She's the one who set this all in motion." I shook my head, feeling the ground beneath me shift again. "What are you talking about?" "I didn't." Adrian cut me off, his voice cutting through the tension. "Lena had nothing to do with this," he said firmly. "This is on you, Marcus. You used her. You used all of us." Marcus laughed, the sound hollow and dark. "You're all fools. Lena doesn't even know what she's been a part of. The people you've been protecting, the ones who thought they were controlling this, they've been playing their own game. And now, they're the ones who will fall." I could feel the weight of his words pressing down on me. I had been a part of this, but I hadn't known it. I had been so consumed by my own fear, by the idea that I was guilty, that I hadn't seen the bigger picture. The pieces were starting to fall into place, but it was almost too late to make sense of them. "We're done here," Adrian said, his voice suddenly cold, decisive. "We're not letting you manipulate anyone else." Marcus's smirk faltered as he realized the shift in the room. His eyes darkened, but it was too late for him. The truth was out. The game was over. Mira took a step forward, pulling out a small device from her pocket. She pressed a button, and suddenly, the sound of footsteps echoed from the far side of the warehouse. More people. Reinforcements. Adrian and I exchanged a look, one that said everything. This wasn't the end, but it was the beginning of the end. We had our answers. And now, we had to make sure the truth reached the light. "You're done, Marcus," Mira said with finality. His eyes blazed with fury as the reinforcements began to encircle us, but he knew it was over. There was no escape. Not this time. We weren't just fighting for survival anymore. We were fighting for the truth. And that wraps up the final part of The Weight of Innocence. If this story kept you on the edge of your seat, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, so you're first to know when our next gripping story drops. Got any final theories or thoughts about what really went down? Drop them in the comments. We're reading them all. And if you want bonus content in a shorter form like Reels, please give us a follow on Instagram at Storystream. Thanks so much for coming along for this journey, and stay tuned. A brand new story is just around the corner, and it's even darker.